Alrighty. Well, a lot has happened to me in the past week. I'm getting a bridge. I don't, can you see it? There's a temporary bridge. Yeah. I had to get a tooth extracted over the summer. And I had the bridge work done on the 8th. He shaved off, I have like one tooth got pulled, and then he shaved off the teeth on either side, and then they put in the temporary. The first day it was pretty painful. And I talked with Brent brain to brain, and I thought, is a bridge supposed to be this painful? He seemed to be telling me in my brain to brain communications with, even though my husband lives in this apartment with me, I don't see him. Like, for instance, you can see this desk, but he actually has a dresser drawer right here in another dimension living in this apartment with me. Yeah, since he got his Gail suit in 2022 after he rescued Jesus from Satan, who almost killed Jesus, he has now a Gail suit, which he uses, which almost gives him power like a god, even though he's human, right? And he used it to save Jesus' life from Satan at that time. And as a result of the Gail suit, he's able to live in my apartment, even though I never see him, and I don't hear him either. Though when we have our Discord chats every week, with the technology they have on the Church of Gail spaceship, which was a spaceship made in heaven, by the way. It was made in 2021. They're able to see the other dimension here. So that's the reason sometimes during our conversations they can see if Satan's here, or they can see my husband even though I can't see him. But the brain-to-brain communications seem to have improved, okay, which is good, which means we're probably making some progress in our war with the automatons. And he was telling me, I said, what's going on? He said, this is what he seemed to be telling me. He said, what's going on? I used to have a yeast bacterium infection. It's called the Jesuit super yeast. I have been infected with that since my 20s, actually, because I started getting mysterious holes in my teeth. In my 20s, I'm 67 now, and I wasn't clenching or doing bruxism, okay? And besides, the holes were kind of deep. It didn't look like they were coming from bruxism, and deep and narrow, you know? And I was told later by Jesus, when he started communicating with us from 2012 forward, he communicated with us from 2012 to 2022, and then he left us in June 2022. He said it's caused by the yeast bacterium it's like a cannibal. It eats away at your teeth. Yeah. And what had happened, Brent was telling me this chronic systemic infection that you had with the yeast bacterium, which Seroquel cured. He said, unfortunately, as a result of that infection, because you had it so long, a mutant of the yeast bacteria was kind of like born from the yeast bacterium, and it was a full bacteria. And this mutant, now the yeast bacteria could not be killed with treatments like nystatin or diflucan or meconazole, any of the standard yeast treatments, because it's a yeast bacterium, right? And it survived by eating human flesh like a cannibal. It would eat calcium, magnesium, and a lot of the same minerals that humans require. And that's why it was so resilient. In fact, Vladimir Putin's wife, Larissa, died from the yeast bacterium. They thought she had breast cancer, and she actually had the yeast bacterium, and they treated her. They saw these black heaps on her breasts and thought that was cancer, and she actually had the yeast bacterium infection, so they put her on chemotherapy, which is the absolute worst thing to do if you have an infection, and it killed her. Yeah. It lowered her immunity to the point where the yeast bacterium proliferated like crazy, and by the time they figured out it was an infection and not cancer, it was too late. They couldn't reverse course, and she died. That would have been, I think, it was right before Vladimir became president for the first time. He was devastated. And about a year later, that would have been in 2000, I think, about a year later, I came into his life, right after 9/11. But anyway, the point is that I had that yeast bacterium infection since my 20s. Fortunately, I never put myself on chemotherapy. Though I do believe that because of that yeast bacterium, I was getting calcium deposits in one of my breasts. And even though I went to Jesus in prayer and he said not to go for the biopsy, that I didn't have breast cancer, I did it anyway because, you know, all the doctors were thinking, you've got these calcium deposits, you should go get a biopsy done. And I had 2 biopsies done. This was in 2000, and I didn't have breast cancer. I should have listened to Jesus in prayer. I went through quite a bit from those biopsies because the Jesuits were sabotaging them. It's in my life story through the Gail series. You can get it up, Gabriel Chana Fox News 00 on cable. To make a long story short, I had that infection a long time. And even though Seroquel cured me of the yeast bacterium infection, it did not cure me of the baby that was born from the infection, which was a full bacteria. But the bacteria was an offshoot or mutant from the yeast bacterium, and it had a lot of the same, it behaved very similar to the yeast bacterium. It was a cannibal. It was eating away at my bones, and I noticed I was still getting holes in my teeth, still getting terrible bone loss. I mean, I've got terrible recession throughout my home. That's why I have to get this bridge. I had an interesting situation with this tooth here that I ended up having to extract. I was working at Walmart when that tooth was getting those mysterious holes in it, okay? The dentist said the holes are getting bad enough to the point where we're going to need to drill it down and put a crown there. So he put a crown on that tooth. And from what I understand, assuming my brain to brain is accurate, he was a good dentist. This was the dentist in Florida. But when he came into my room to put the crown in, he got switched out with his Jesuit clone. And the Jesuit clone dentist put the crown on crooked deliberately. So there was like a little opening at the base of the crown. We discovered it with my dentist here in Huntsville. The dentist said, whichever dentist put this crown on your tooth, put it on crooked, there's an opening at the bottom, and it's been letting in all sorts of stuff into the root of that tooth and into, and so you got a really bad infection there, and we're going to need to do a root canal. That's what he thought he needed to do in 2023, May 2023, when I first started seeing him. So they did a root canal, and it didn't work. Finally, the dentist, one of the dentists, I believe, who works in the same office with him, said the root canal is not working on this tooth. We're going to probably have to extract this tooth. And I was upset about that. Nobody likes losing a tooth. It did have a puffy, the gum was puffy and abscessed, and pus was coming out of it. And it had been like that for like 10 years, and I hadn't died yet. And I was told by Jesus, don't worry about it because you have a yeast infection in that tooth. But even after he said the yeast was cured, I still had that puffiness there. Brent said, I have conferred with your dentist, and that tooth is going to need to be pulled. He said, you do have a very stubborn bacterial infection in that tooth, in the root. And even though they put you on antibiotics, they haven't worked. And it is so stubborn and so entrenched, you're going to have to pull that tooth. Understandably, I was not happy about this, and I was trying to think maybe they didn't do the root canal right, and then the Gail Shield plummeted when I started doing research on. Finally, I said, okay, I'm going to have to pull that tooth. This was right before we had our calamity with the interdimensional mites. But I did it. And I went through a time. I made YouTube videos about it. I went through a time because I had to be put on antibiotics after the tooth was pulled. And it seemed like the infection just didn't want to go away even after the tooth was pulled. I had to do a full 10-day course, and it was horrible because I damaged my gut from violating the Gail commandment about only, having a balanced diet and not taking all these supplements. I had actually wore off all the lining, the inner lining to my intestines. So if I got put on antibiotics, I'd get a nasty yeast infection. So they put me on antibiotics, then they put me on Deflucan for the yeast infection. It seemed like none of the germs was going to go away, but eventually we licked it, okay? But it was rough for me. But the tooth got pulled, then it started healing very nicely about mid-July forward. And then Brent said, he said, I think you should get a bridge done on that. I was debating between an implant or a bridge. He said a bridge. So I decided on a bridge. And then the next question was, how do we pay for this? My insurance, my WellCare insurance, all of a sudden, even though at their website they said my dentist was a network dentist, all of a sudden Sun Tzu apparently took over the WellCare company. And all of a sudden they said my dentist was a network and they weren't going to cover anything that he did. So I was getting cleanings done because I've got terrible bone loss, okay, from the bacteria that I had for a long time, yeast bacterium. Now the mystery was, why was I still having dental problems when Jesus said the yeast bacterium was gone? It was the baby, it was the bacteria. We found, Brent has been telling me brain to brain that the bacteria baby from the yeast bacterium, the mutant, survived by embedding itself into human tissue. It would embed itself into bone, into tissue, and in a sense behaved much like a cancer cell. So that the only way to get rid of it was to slough off the tissue that it had embedded itself into. And recently, because we had to get rid of the automaton doctors, who were like 99.9% of all doctors in the U.S., after becoming Antichrist, I realized we could create Jesuit doctors. Then we sent the Jesuit doctors into the hospitals, and the automaton doctors started killing them. So I thought, this isn't going to work. I still have a little bit of swelling here. I'll explain that in a minute. But so I came up with the concept of doctors making house calls again. And we came up with a cubicle that we could put inside people's homes, which I hear worked really good with the hurricanes we had with Helene and Milton. So now we don't need the hospitals anymore. And I instructed Brent, who's the president still, go ahead and set up my national health care plan over the whole country and set it up so that people can be covered financially when they use the cube doctors. We call them cube doctors. The doctor now comes to your home, even for emergencies. We had to do that because if we sent them to the hospitals, the automatons were at all the hospitals and the doctors' offices. So they would kill any Jesuit doctors that showed up there. So we have cube doctors now. So he was able to use that cube doctor, and we can actually bring the hospital to your home, where the doctor will have all the equipment and everything he needs to treat you right in your home. Yeah. And I've set up our national health care plan so that these visits are covered by insurance. So anyways, the doctor, I was in a lot of pain after I took 600 milligrams of ibuprofen to deal with swelling. I'm still getting some swelling there. And pain. Brent told me what's going on is when they shaved down those 2 teeth, it kind of like there were embedded bacteria in all the shavings, and they're kind of like going crazy in your mouth right now, so you're getting a lot of inflammation and swelling. He said not only that, they're going crazy in those little stumps in, he said you even have some in your roots, in your nervous tissue, in your roots of those 2 adjacent teeth. See, the tooth that was pulled was saturated with the bacterium, with this offshoot from the yeast bacterium. And it's not a normal bacteria, which is why even when I was on antibiotic treatment, I couldn't get rid of it. And because it's a cannibal, the dentist, I remember when he pulled my tooth, it kind of cracked and split. And he said, wow. He said, this tooth was cracked. He said, if I had known this, I never would have put you on a root canal. I would have just extracted it at once, But he said, yeah. He said, but I can tell that when I pulled this tooth, it just split. So you had a crack in this tooth. We believe the crack was caused by the bacterium because it's a cannibal. So the cannibal bacteria was eating away at that tooth. And of course there was an opening at the bottom, which didn't help either, because the Jesuit dentist put the crown on crooked. And so that's why it cracked. The bacterium was eating away at the roots, and it caused a crack in that tooth. And so the tooth was a goner. The neighbor teeth, though, that were close to it, they also got infected with the embedder bacteria. And so after they were shaved off, there was a lot of inflammation because the bacteria, when you irritate these bacteria, they release what I call acid poop, okay? It's not limited to acid poop. Sometimes it's waxy poop, but it's like acidic poop. It's very irritating, and it inflames the tissue. So because he'd shaved off both teeth, which were embedded with these bacteria, they were really painful. And Brent told me he said, go ahead and take 600 milligrams of ibuprofen. And he said, no, you're not allergic to ibuprofen. He said, the reason you get a little bit of sinus congestion and you feel funny after you take the ibuprofen is because you're taking it at the same time that you're having problems with this bacterium, and you are allergic to this bacteria's poop and toxins. So that's what you're experiencing. The stuffy nose is coming from the bacteria. And it just happens, it's happening at the same time you're taking the ibuprofen, so you think you're allergic to the ibuprofen, but it's not that, it's the bacteria. So that helped me to bear it. And then I noticed after I got on the 600 milligrams of ibuprofen, I started getting more pain. I said, this is strange. I was getting some relief about an hour after I took it, and then 2 hours after I'm on the ibuprofen, now I'm feeling pain. Brett told me, we have the dentist in your apartment right now, and he's doing root canals on those 2 teeth that he just drilled down. He has his equipment. I said, well, I don't see him. He said, how can he work? I'm moving around. He said he's working in bits and pieces. And for the next 2 nights when I slept, my husband, who is a doctor, by the way, I think he put me under general anesthesia, and he had the dentist go in there and do 2 very good root canals in those 2 teeth that were shaved down so that I could take the bridge. And now I'm doing pretty good. There is swelling though, but it's not the bridge. It's because the bacteria are loose. They're releasing their acid poop, so there's some swelling in all the tissue around you. This happens to me every time I get any dental work done now, especially if there's any shaving involved where those bacteria get loose, and once they're loose, they have acidic poop, and it causes inflammation and swelling. Like my tongue swells up, my cheeks swell up. Brent said, just drink a lot of water, keep the liquids down. He said it's because of the bacteria. Because, he said the way we're treating them, he said, I'm actually going to use that bridge to help you with this bacterium infection, which has gone systemic in your body. Yeah, I've got a hole on this molar on this side, which has gotten kind of sensitive. And it's not a cavity, because the dentist isn't telling me it's a cavity, and he's seen it. Brent said it's the bacterium. But You might say, well, if the bacteria is causing it, then it's a cavity. This is a weird bacteria, okay? It's the offshoot from the yeast bacterium. And then remember that I thought I had the flu. That was the bacteria. What Shakpona apparently did was he knew I had that embedder bacteria in my body. He just released it from the cells and caused it to accumulate in my throat. And because it has acid poop, it gave me a really nasty cough and made me feel like I had the flu. And then he gave me hot flashes to make me think I was running a fever. Yeah. The god of pestilence and disease. Shakpona is actually one of my allies right now, but I don't approve of a lot of his activities, okay? Ooh, and lately, okay, so anyways, it's doing much better. Apparently the root canals really happened because I was in quite a bit of pain right after the procedure for the bridge. And then the next day I felt much better. And so that was the 8th, today is the 12th. Now, today I have not taken any Advil. I took like 600 milligrams on the 8th. I knocked it down to 400 on the 9th. On the 10th, I went most of the day without anything. And today I took some, I'm taking some mainly to help with the swelling. Yeah, from the bacteria. But yeah, apparently we were able to use Cube dentists, where the dentist comes to my house, and he was able to give me a root canal, so that's helping. The root canal was necessary because I wouldn't be able to take the pain from the bridge procedure without it. Yeah. Fortunately, it didn't cost me any money because it was done in another dimension and when I was sleeping, and my husband and the men on the marriage list I'm hearing brain to brain, they paid for it. They gave the dentist a bonus for doing such a good job on my mouth. I mean, he's dealing with a difficult situation. I mean, I've got dental damage through my whole mouth because of that bacterium. I've got terrible bone loss because it eats bone. It's like a bone eater. It eats tissue, you know? I'm also infected with this bacterium in my intestines. Yeah. Brent told me I don't even have a lining in most of my intestines. He said he's been working on that using Cube doctors. So this invention that I made to solve everybody's problem because all the doctors were automatons is helping me out too. Because now the doctors can come to my house, you know. It used to be that I couldn't go to Church of Gail because I can't use the transporter technology. If my genetic profile goes in the transporter technology, I'll just vanish. The enemies have a lock on my genetic code, and they'll just kill me. I won't rematerialize. So, anyways, the good news is the bridge work is working, and the bridge is actually being used as an instrument to help my men to get rid of the embedder bacteria throughout my body. It's all over the place. It's in my nervous tissue. It's giving me like carpal tunnel-like symptoms in my writing hand. I've got weird symptoms all over my body from this bacterium, which was an offshoot of an infection I had for 40 years, almost 40 years. Yeah. It's a miracle it didn't kill me. If it wasn't for Jesus and his Seroquel, I probably wouldn't even be alive here to talk to you. Like I said, Vladimir Putin's wife died from this. Yeah, in fact, before Jesus invented Seroquel, or before we learned that Seroquel was the cure to this yeast bacterium, the mortality rate for this yeast bacterium once it became systemic was 60%. Yeah. Now, the embedder bacteria, the treatment for it is very similar to cancer treatment. Yeah. You have to purge the bacteria from the cells that it's embedded in, which is a very difficult process. Because the bacteria is very nasty when you try to take it out of the body. Even if you don't kill it, which is how Seroquel works, it flushes the yeast bacterium out without killing it. Even if you don't kill it, it seems to know that it's about to leave the area where it's getting its food, and it releases a nasty acid poop, which really irritates the human tissues. Yeah. That's what's happening here in my mouth right now. But Brent said we got to get rid of it. Because if we don't, it's like you're going to be in dentures everywhere. I have small bones as it is. That means I'll have osteoporosis. Yeah. He says I have mild osteopenia. I think that they call it right now. And that's from the bacteria, the embedder. Plus, it's throughout my whole guts. You need your guts, right? So anyways, I have faith in my brilliant doctor husband. And I have faith in Jesus, even though he left us. So we're going to get through this. And plus, with my Antichrist powers, I heal more readily now from surgical procedures. But yeah, I had no tooth right there. I've got a temporary bridge. I'll get the permanent in November. Yeah, they have to order it. In the meanwhile, I'm on a soft foods diet, and I've found all sorts of delicious soft food dishes that I can make. So I'm good. And I'm already learning how to clean the area. It's not as difficult as I thought. Yeah. And my spiritual practice, which is a blend of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Christianity, helped me to stay calm when I was in pain. I was thinking, okay, you're in pain. Just do what you have control over. Listen to your husband who loves you. And he said, you're going to be fine, Gail. Well, once they do the root canal. I remember when I was in pain on the 8th, I thought, is this root canal going to work? I'm in quite a bit of pain right now. He said, yes, it will. And I said, okay, the pain I'm feeling right now is because he's doing a root canal? He said, yeah. I said, okay, I believe you. The next day, the pain was considerably down. So the root canal must have happened. Yeah. I think it was more than the average amount of pain that I should have had for bridge work. Because I had a crown done on this tooth, and I don't recall it being that painful. And another one done over here. So it was probably because of the embedder bacteria being in the bone structure of the tooth and releasing its acid poop because we were irritating it. We were taking it away from its food source, you know what I mean? It's a very temperamental bacteria. And then another thing happened. All of a sudden, Sun Tzu's been doing everything to try to get my Gail shield to fall. And he's been trying to give me obsessions about everything. So my backpack broke, and I noticed I couldn't find a backpack that I liked. They don't make backpacks for skinny people anymore. They have these kind of sling over the shoulder kind for fat people, I guess, who can't put it around their waist. And finally, but the good news is I was able to take the bus, go out to Academy, and get another backpack. And it's been working for me. I have to have a backpack because I ride the bus. I don't have a car. I do my grocery shopping that way. I have to carry bags over my shoulders with my food and stuff. So I found one. And then another thing that broke was my mirror over here. Yeah, and so several other items. Some of them were heavy. And to my amazement, there were stores. I use that mirror every day. There were stores within walking distance where I could get them. So I was good on that. I'm finding that when something happens, rather than panic or become fearful, if I just stay calm, I can usually think of a solution. Yeah. And yeah, it's doing a lot better. And the swelling is going down, okay? I still have it there, but I know what it is. And I have faith in my husband. I will say something. That bridge looks attractive. Yeah. I just wanted it to be functional, but it does. And that's not even the permanent bridge. So when the permanent bridge gets in there, it'll probably look good. So, okay. So another interesting thing that happened. Okay. So now my WellCare was saying they wouldn't cover the dentist. So I thought, oh no. You say, bridge work, that's not cheap. How are we going to afford this? I thought, and they have to get pre-authorization. I'm in a Medicare Advantage plan, So, so I came up with a strategy, and I went through this with my husband, okay? Brent said, we decided we want you to get bridge work done. So I had an appointment at the end of, he said, oh, you've got a flex card, and that will cover dental? I said, yeah. And I'm saving up on it because I get $150 a month. And my WellCare plan has got it's kind of like a flex card. And at that time, I had hardly ever used it this year. And so I decided not to use it for over-the-counter items and just save up for dental, because I could use it for dental. By the time I changed my mind and decided to move up my appointment to October so that I could use the flex card, because it's a use it or lose it card. And I did write a letter to WellCare and say, hey, you should cover my dentist. And for a while, my men were able to go to the WellCare place and take it over and get them to do what they're supposed to do, which is acknowledge my dentist as being network, because he is. And so we got them to reverse their rejection of several, like when the tooth was pulled, they wouldn't cover that. They wouldn't cover some periodontal cleanings I had. We got them to reverse that and to cover it. And then all of a sudden in August, Sun Tzu somehow overturned what we did. And I got a letter saying we did not cover the cavity that you had done in one tooth, and we didn't cover a periodontal cleaning because your dentist is not a network. I wrote them another letter disputing that and saying, your website says he is. But I thought, oh, wow, this is great, because I've got bridge work that needs to be done. My dentist gave me a really good deal. This is a traditional bridge. He said, your bridge will cost $3,000, but because I made a mistake and gave you a root canal in that tooth when it actually needed an extraction, and you paid with your own money for the crown on top of it, because my insurance wouldn't cover the crown back then, he said, I'm going to give you a $700 discount. So the total cost for the bridge was $2,300. And I conferred with Brent, and he said, okay, so you've got a flex card that's going to cover this? Yes. And I said, it adds up. By the end of the year, I should have $1,700 on that card that I can use to pay for the bridge. He said, okay, try to schedule your bridge work as close to the end of the year as possible. So I thought, wait a minute. At first, we made the appointment on December 18th, and I thought, wait a minute. Bridge work is done in 2 stages. First stage, temporary. Second stage, permanent. So I said, let's move it up to October. So I moved the appointment to October 8th, which was a good move. That way I can make sure I use up my flex card before the end of the year. When I showed up on October the 8th, the dentist office called me in, their financial person, really nice lady. She called me in to us, and they said, your insurance has been acting up, and we're going to need to see some payment for this bridge. I think before they went forward, I said, and I didn't realize they were going to do that. Okay, he says, and I thought, are you ready to make a payment? And I said, well, it's a good thing I had my flex card with me. I said, let's guess. I said, how much do I have on? I said, let's try $1,400. It went through. So I was able to use $1,400 on the flex card for the bridge, which means I currently owe, I think it's $900. Plus they didn't cover August, which was an extraction and cleaning, so approximately $1,000. I did dispute the August charges and sent them a letter, because Sun Tzu apparently took over WellCare. And then I got a letter from WellCare. Oh, it's been crazy what Sun Tzu's been doing. Then I got a letter from WellCare stating that WellCare is stopping in Alabama, okay? So for 20, and they were the best ones with my dentist, or they were, past tense. Past tense. And that they will cover everything for 2024, but 2025, WellCare will no longer be in Alabama. So I did some research and decided to go with United Healthcare for 2025. I've already started that, because when the dentist did the cavity, I said, which insurances work well with you? I basically go with I hardly ever go to the doctor. I have a doctor for a husband. Yeah, he's always doing stuff on me. Besides, I don't trust the doctors right now. They were all automatons. Yeah. So let me tell you what happened. So, I decided I don't have a phone either, because they use brain control on the phone to get you to get under their spell. So I have a Skype phone, right? So I decided I used chat. I went to the United Healthcare website and used their chat feature to get set up for United Healthcare. And I got started, but they say they got to wait till October 15th before they can fully put me into their plan. I'm going in a special plan where I get a really good deal. So I decided to go with United Healthcare because I did some research and they'll probably be the best for me. They're the pharmacy that I can walk to, the Kroger pharmacy, is in network with United Healthcare, and also they're in network with my dentist. Well, guess what? After I decided, United Healthcare is the best one for my dentist. That was my main concern, and my pharmacy. All of a sudden, Huntsville Hospital stated that they will no longer work with United Healthcare. I thought, oh man, they're trying to get me to change my mind. So I had talked to Brent, brain to brain, and he said, just stay with United Healthcare for 2025. He said, yeah, I mean, we don't trust the hospital right now anyway. There are a bunch of automatons there. So, but I'm telling you, this has been crazy dealing with Sun Tzu, man. Yeah, he was behind those 2 hurricanes that hit Florida too, Helene, and my Gail Shield shoved Helene out. He was obviously trying to get it to hit Huntsville, and then I think he was hoping after I got the bridge work done that I'd panic because of the pain here, but I didn't. So the Gail Shield apparently stayed strong, and so Milton stayed in Florida. Poor Floridians, man. I told Brent, make sure you take care of them, and he said he's doing that. I think he had everyone evacuated from Florida. And those that I knew in Florida even got to go out with their cars and live on Church of Gail during the hurricane. Yeah. And my Gail Shield stayed strong, and so the hurricane wasn't as bad as it could have been. Sun Tzu, I don't know how he can claim any morality when he... And I think he was working with the Genghis Khan Nazis to do this hurricane business. So I paid $1,400 using my Flex card for this, and that was good enough for my dentist. But I'm prepared for the next visit if my insurance doesn't come through to probably use some of my savings to pay for, and I think that will be okay with Jesus. Because Brent says we want you to get this bridge work done. Yeah, as he said, it's important. I got to admit, it would be easier to eat on that side if I had a tooth there. Yeah. So, and it might be beneficial for me, and it'll be beneficial for me for other reasons. But the good news is the Lord does provide. He uses my husband. I get wisdom from him. So I had enough. So my strategy is I'm going to try to get my insurance to pay for all this. But if they don't, I'm going to have about $300 on the Flex card. So that's going to knock it. That means $1,700 of the $2,300 will be covered with basically insurance through the Flex card. And then the other $600, if I have to, I will use my savings. That's what the savings are for stuff like that. Yeah. And I trust this dentist. I do believe that if my insurance comes through, that they'll give me, they will, I'll be able to get stuff done in 2025 for free. You know, like, because I do periodontal cleanings every 3 months because I have really bad bone loss and stuff. So I'm just letting you know that in spite of the damage that I've had done in my body because of this, I call it embedded bacteria, we're finding solutions and we're making the best of the situation. I have some swelling here still from the bacteria. I mean, hey, a 40-year infection. You're not going to be able to get rid of this stuff overnight. Yeah. but I just count my blessings. I'm practicing my spiritual practice, and I just wanted to share with you that, and P. Diddy, from what I understand, I believe my husband pardoned him, but he has chosen to remain in court because he wants to have the opportunity to testify. And I believe he's using the webpage I created for him to help him in his case. But the point that I'm trying to say, folks, is when life's problems come up, just do the best you can. Don't panic. Do the Gail commandments the best you can. And then the problems will be manageable. Okay? If it's like, I kept telling myself this, anxiety does you no good. If the problem can be solved, worrying about it isn't going to make it any better. If it can't be solved, worrying about it is of no use. So yeah, I am literally practicing my spiritual practice, and it is helping me tremendously. I have a tendency to freak out when I'm in pain, or when my body or my life goes off away from what I'm used to. I am a creature of habit, right? And I'm learning that I need to go with the flow when the changes happen, including changes in my body. Yeah. So I am a blessed woman that I can afford to get this work done. What a blessing. When I was living in Florida, I wouldn't have been able to afford it. So yeah, I'm in a much better financial situation here. So I'm counting and I have a good dentist. He's a conscientious, thoughtful dentist. And he doesn't do work on my teeth except what needs to be done. Yeah. So I am being taken care of. Yep. Looks pretty good there, huh? Huh. And that's not even the full, that's not even the permanent. That's the temporary bridge. There was a hole there before, so yeah. It doesn't even look like a bridge. You say, why didn't you get an implant? We decided I don't do good with surgery because of the bacteria. I'm very infection prone, and my husband, Brent, who is a doctor, a very good one, by the way, feels the bridge was the way to go, and it appears he was right. So anyways, I had to make my YouTube video, so I wanted to let you all know how I'm doing. I listen to the meditation wisdom videos that I made here at YouTube all the time. I created a web page about it. I'm finding this spiritual practice very beneficial for me. Yeah. And it's keeping the Gail Shield strong, which helps you guys out. I would like to say this. We are using Cube doctors. They come to your house. So if you have an emergency now, and yeah, you don't need the hospital. The doctors come to your house. They make house calls, even for emergencies. I hear they're still using ambulances, like if your house is not adequate, maybe it's too small or whatever, or too dirty, they'll bring you to maybe to somebody else's house. But yeah, the Cube dentists help me out. Yeah. We bring the hospital to your home if it's needed. And I've set it up so that my national health care plan will financially cover this for you as well. I'm trying to be a good antichrist. I do not want to be an evil one. So I'm probably the strangest antichrist you ever saw. And I have healing powers, and I'm saying, heal all my supporters. So, yeah. Yeah. You know, I was kind of disappointed when the Bible got canceled, because I was very excited about the millennial reign. But then I don't like Jesus being beat up either, you know. Apparently some of his ideas were not that workable. I'm actually excited about the new plan going forward. I'm kind of like a blend between Hinduism, Buddhism, and Christianity right now. That's where I've landed. And I'm finding this spiritual practice is working very well for me. And I think I would have Jesus' full approval. Yeah. Yeah, you got to check out those web pages I made about this. So, yeah, I'm doing well, and I am at peace and joyful. Yeah. In spite of the swelling, better than yesterday. We're making progress, right? So I wanted to make my video and let you know how I'm doing. We have Cube Doctors, and my national health care plan should help cover your financial needs. I will have a link to the national health care plan underneath this video. Though if you listen to 00 on cable, they might be talking about it. Yeah. You might already know about it. Your doctor, your Cube doctor is probably telling you. The one that comes to your house. So you all have a great week. And let's all stay calm, joyful, and living presently and joyfully in the moment. One other thing. Brain control. Oh. Brain control's been awful. Brent told me that that they've been using brain control to cause me to hear things, like my air conditioner is making these rattling noises, and he's saying that's brain control. And he said also they're using brain control on you so that every little pain in your body, you feel it 5 times worse than it is. He said, we are working on it, but I just wanted to make you all aware that Sun Tzu is using very bad brain control. Okay? Just try to stay calm and just be aware that if you're hearing strange things or you having strange pains in your body, you might want to check with your Cube doctor. Yeah. And they might be able to make you aware if you're having a brain control problem. Yeah, if it's brain control, probably the best thing you can do is meditate and try to stay calm. Yeah, it will pass. Just have faith in the process, okay?
In a world of secrets, where darkness reigns, there's a warrior rising, breaking free from chains. She's Gail Schuler, her heart pure and strong, with the power of love, she'll right the world's wrongs. Yeah! She's the first, a passionate crusader. Stand by the side of conquer it all. Through space battles and trials.